I think we like seeing, movies and having kind of a private auditorium sometimes and not having to worry about a cell phone going off. But at the same time, I've kind of missed, that thing we've talked about all year, the community experience of and hearing people react with a movie.
This is the Box Office Podcast, and it is the last one of 2020. I am Russ Fisher, the editorial director of the Box Office Studios, which provides editorial content to movie theaters. And I am joined by Daniel Laria, the editorial director of Box Office Pro magazine, Rebecca Polley, the deputy editor of Box Office Pro, and Shawn Robbins, the chief analyst over at Box Office Pro. And we're excited to actually not have anything big and newsy to talk about this time. If you pull up our last episode, if you missed that, we went into a lot of detail about the HBO Max and Disney news and discussed potential ramifications for the industry overall, and more specifically the first quarter of 2021. This one, we're just going to kind of relax a little bit and talk to one another about actual movies, and we'll talk a little bit about what happened in 2020 as well. So, hey, Daniel, Rebecca, Shawn, it's nice to wrap up the year with you guys.
We do have to bring in the caveat, of course, that we're recording this episode before the week, the New Year's Eve week, so we don't know what Wonder Woman 1984 opened to. So you might, listening to this, you might either be in a terrible mood or a very good one. We have no idea.
That's true. Yeah, we're preloading so that everybody can hopefully take a little bit of time off. Obviously, the four of us didn't have a lot of movie-going experiences this year, probably. But for all three of you, what were the best movie-going moments that you had in 2020? Like actual movie-going moments, not your favorite movie, but the favorite experience of going to a theater. Yeah,
like at a cinema movie-going moment.
Last Christmas, my big Christmas gift from my family, which I appreciated very much, was a membership to the Museum of Modern Art. So, like January, February, I just kind of lived at their movie theater and saw a bunch of stuff. And thankfully, I think I saw enough stuff that the membership is paid for itself, even though the museums, not screen movies for 80% of the year. But just going with friends to see just these old movies that Hedy Lamar's Ecstasy, which was, I believe, early 30s, and it's the movie that really propelled her to attention from American studios and American audiences. And forgive me my film history nerdery there, but just seeing that movie, with friends, going to a diner afterwards and talking about it. And it's not a movie that I think I would have enjoyed as much if I had seen it on the small screen. It is a very visual movie. And then later we were all talking about how much we liked the lead actor and we'd never heard of him. And then we looked it up and it turned out he became an actual Nazi.
Oh, surprise. Twist.
Like a legit. Yeah.
Like an actual one. Oh, wow. Okay.
Pretty sure. Or at least affiliated in some way. So then I was like, okay, no, I can't like that guy.
Oh my. Okay. Yeah.
That's a good turn.
Did anyone else's? How do we have? Who wants to segue from Nazis?
No, I don't have a good Nazi segue for you.
That's
We're just
good.
Gonna have to do this awkwardly.
That's good. Yeah. No. Let's just really roughly transition into Daniel. Shawn, one of you go, please, quickly.
So it was a weird year, right? Where I think, like many people in the country, most of my movie going was focused on the first quarter of the year. And at least, again, we're talking about people working in this industry. That first quarter is usually films that we tended to see in advance, anywhere between September and December of the previous year, just because of how award season works. So a lot of those titles, at that point in January, I'm watching something again, or I'm watching something that I saw on a screener on a big screen. And that's where the big positive movie-going moment for me happened. I went to go see Little Women with my wife. I wanted to see it for the first time with her on the big screen. And we have had a fantastic night out at the movies, packed movie theater, seeing this really fresh take on an old classic. I bring that up because the next time I was able to go to the movies with my wife was when was it? October, to see Tenet over in New Jersey. It was our first time going back to the movies since the pandemic started. And it was just a starkly different experience, right? That excitement that we had walking into the doors, I wish we could have still felt it. The safety measures are important. We felt very safe in there with everything that was instituted, but it still felt weird. It was the first time back. I think that first time back going to the movies is going to feel a little bit uneasy as you settle into your seat and you look around to see the protocols in place, everybody wearing masks, nobody seated anywhere around you, anywhere near you. That was a little bit tough to get used to. And, unfortunately, I remember 40 minutes into Tenet, really just not really responding to the film at all positively, and just wondering, I'm going to turn to my wife and see if she's having a good time. And oh my God, that's when I realized we're screwed. That's when I realized this movie isn't hitting. And if it's not hitting someone that can probably cut Chris Nolan a little bit of slack, it's going to be a really, really difficult recovery if this is being touted as a big blockbuster and it's really a niche film. And it's going to be difficult. I know, Shawn, on your end, you are a big Chris Nolan fan. I know you did enjoy it. You went to see it several times. Again, on my end, it's not really a value judgment on the film. It's just a reaction to seeing it and sort of seeing the impact of that back to the movies experience. I think it's fair to say, Shawn, you've probably been to the movies more than any of us this year, just because you've been in a state that has allowed you to do so.
True. Honestly, it was kind of there was a rush there. I think that first 2 months, six to 8 weeks, we went to see at least a movie a week. But I've kind of gotten back into a lull again. And it's not necessarily because there haven't been movies that I want to see. It's partly just a combination of time, but it's also something I think you alluded to. Like the experience is still a little different. Like when we've gone, there haven't been that many people. And yeah, I mean, it's. I think we like seeing movies and having kind of a private auditorium sometimes, and not having to worry about a cell phone going off. But at the same time, I've kind of missed that thing we've talked about all year, the community experience and hearing people react with a movie. So, but yeah, I mean, I have been fortunate to live in a state that we have a lot of AMC theaters around here. Regal's based out of my state, and of course they're closed right now, but they're more in East Tennessee, and they have a few locations in Nashville where I'm at. But yeah, I Tenet for me, I'm kind of excluding that from my end of lists here today because I am such a Nolan nerd, and I could easily say it was my favorite movie, but I'll just kind of, we'll just assume I'll skip to my second favorite or favorite movie going experience, because going back to see Tenet in IMAX that opening night was, that was pretty high up there just on a lot of levels to go be able to do that. But if I were kind of looking earlier, I would probably say seeing 1917 in the Dolby Cinema back in January when it came out. That was a great experience. Some friends came into town. We went to see that together, and it was, from a film quality and from a theater experience point of view, that was a great moment this year for me.
Russ, how about you? What was the most memorable movie-going experience you had? Also, you have a fairly young kid, which I think makes it much tougher for you to get out as often as you'd like.
Yeah, it's unfortunately I have very few movie-going experiences this year because, when the year began, our son was 5 months old, I guess. So really squarely in the point where it was like, I got to really move things around to get out to the movies, part because my wife was also super busy with work at the time. I was pretty busy, so it was difficult. One of the last things I did, however, before shutdown happened, and I've talked about this on the pod before, I went to the American Cinematheque, the Egyptian in Hollywood, to see a triple feature of versions of the movie M, originally by Fritz Lang, which is one of the great original crime thrillers where the Berlin underworld goes in search of this child killer because this murderer's actions are bringing too much attention to the criminal underworld. So they're like, we're going to catch this guy ourselves. Magnificent Peter Lorre performance, but there's a 1951 remake by Joseph Losey, who's an American filmmaker who went into exile after he had a run-in with HUAC in 1951. He did a remake of M that was basically his last American movie before he went into European exile. Shot largely on location in Los Angeles and partially in some neighborhoods that no longer exist, like Bunker Hill, which was an adjacent part of downtown, which has been completely bulldozed. And it's amazing to me that like central integral parts of major cities can just be wiped away, and that now you might never know that they ever existed, except you see it in a movie and it's like, oh wow, this is one of the few visual documents, like moving visual documents of what was once a really vibrant neighborhood and a very important part of the city. So Losey's remake of M is not a magnificent movie by any stretch. It's got a lot of dramatic shortcomings, but man, it's gorgeous because you get to see these parts of the city that are now gone. It also has a really good sequence in the Bradbury Building, which is a significant, architectural landmark in downtown Los Angeles, probably best known for the use in Blade Runner. So, I went to see that on, I think, March, I don't remember, the last Saturday in March before everything shut down. And I actually went, Daniel, with Amy Nicholson, who used to work at Box Office Magazine. So that was
our predecessor.
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was a fun outing. And it was a movie I'd wanted to see on the big screen for a long time. So to finally get a chance to see that was pretty cool.
Another early MoMA screening early from this year was a similar situation. Betty Gordon's Variety. It's an independent 80s film, featuring a woman who works in a movie theater, but specifically as a ticket taker at a Times Square porn theater. And it's that window back to a different time, like seeing that and then walking through Times Square as it is now, where you had adult theaters and now it's like TGI Fridays.
Yeah.
In terms of new films, I mean, have you guys been able to see any new films, either ones that came out before the pandemic or stuff that's come out, PVOD, virtual theatrical, since then? What have been some highlights?
I mean, I'll just pick it up from where I left off. I mean, again, for me, pre-pandemic, seeing new stuff was kind of difficult because of my parenting situation. So unfortunately, most of the new 2020 movies that I've seen were streaming films. So, some stuff that really stood out was like Spike Lee's The Five Bloods, which honestly was a movie that I didn't love. It's a movie that I think has a lot of a number of issues, but at the same time, the most important parts of that movie and the ambition of it continue to stand out to me. And it's a movie that I've continued to think about a lot this year. Delroy Lindo's performance is fantastic. With any luck, he'll be in the awards conversation for this year. So that is probably, at this point, the standout movie for me. The First Cow is also, I think, terrific. Like this really beautiful, low-key movie that's sort of a Western, but that has a lot more going on than just kind of rewriting what the Western is. So yeah, those two I would say stand out. And unfortunately, I'm still working to catch up with easily probably 24 other movies at this point.
Shawn, how about you?
I'm trying to think back. It's odd because usually I catch all the awards films after New Year's. So like some of my favorite movies that I saw were actually 2019 movies, like Jojo Rabbit. I can watch that any time of day, like just any time. And I love that. But so I'll kind of exclude that because it was last year.
And that movie had fake Nazis, just to clarify here. As opposed
yes,
to the real
just
Nazi
keeping the theme alive
from Rebecca's song. Yes.
Right. Honestly, I mean, I'm trying to, I would love to pick out a theatrical experience movie, but Aaron Sorkin's Trial of Chicago 7 it is pretty high up on my list for this year, and it's kind of fresh on my mind because I watched it shortly after it came out, October, November. But that's been a favorite so far. There's an indie movie called The Vast of Night, which
movie.
is
yes,
kind of
that movie is fantastic.
Yeah, that was a great one. Watched that over the summer. Very Spielbergian kind of sci-fi. Yeah, I think films like those. But no, like you said, Russ, there's still a lot of movies I'm catching up on or just haven't gotten around to. I don't have as good of an excuse as as having a kid, because my wife and I don't have any kids yet. But there are a lot of movies I want to try to catch up on over the holidays, or after the new year.
And just for those listening, if you haven't seen The Vast of Night, which I think is on Amazon Prime, really can't recommend it highly enough. It's a very small movie, but that is part of its appeal. It was made by a first-time feature director who had a lot of experience doing commercials and other work beforehand, but made the movie in a really scrappy way. I mean, it cost virtually nothing and was pulled together in a short amount of time with a lot of ingenuity and a lot of just, we want to get this story made. It's kind of like a 50s version of a Twilight Zone episode, but made in a very modern way. It's just very cool. It did some festivals last year, so I guess for me it was a 2019 movie, but really recommend it. And if you see it and you like it, there's a great podcast that is by Roger Deakins and his wife James, which, I mean, right there, like if you haven't listened to the Roger Deakins podcast, it's magnificent. They get great filmmakers, talent, people from all over the spectrum of the crew, but they have the Vast of Night filmmaker on for a very technical breakdown of how that movie was made. And if you like the movie and you're interested in that sort of thing, I recommend that episode of the Deakins podcast very highly.
For me, I was lucky enough to see Promising Young Woman on the big screen as a screener. I think probably February. I really enjoyed that one. It was, I think it's a film that looks great on the big screen if people are able to and are comfortable doing that when it comes out on Christmas. Nomadland, I really loved. I wish I'd been able to see that one on the big screen. Sound of Metal,
February 2021.
It's coming out. And then, like everyone else, some streaming titles. Amazon Sound of Metal. I really enjoyed the HBO movie Bad Education with Hugh Jackman. But the one that keeps coming back to me was actually a festival movie I saw last year that got a theatrical / virtual theatrical release. I think in November of 2020. It's called Kokoda. And kind of the elevator pitch logline that makes it sound a lot more upbeat and a lot more fun than it is a Groundhog Day horror movie where a couple goes camping and then people show up and bad things keep happening and they live that day over and over. However, and this isn't a spoiler because it's in the very first scene, this is a couple whose young child has just died. So Russ, maybe you don't watch it, but the supernatural experience kind of helps them process their grief, and it's a really very cerebral. It's a Swedish film, for people who are into kind of that, maybe like Mandy, but it doesn't have that kind of hard rock metal aesthetic of Mandy. I don't like the term elevated horror when it's used to mean horror, right, but smart. But it is what people mean when they say elevated horror. It's a very well done movie, but this is one that that's really stuck in my head since I saw it, which at this point's over a year, I think.
I remember hearing about that, and actually, despite your warning, thank you for the reminder, because I will. I mean, as I'm looking at it now, while you're talking about it, I just pulled up some images. I was like, oh yeah, I remember thinking this looked really cool, and so I just put it on the actual list of movies that I have to watch. So I will watch it.
It's a relatively new distributor, Dark Star Pictures. It does a lot of offbeat international horror and genre films. And whoever is on their acquisitions team, they have really good taste.
On my end, it's interesting that we keep on talking about movies that we saw before the pandemic really hit, because I think, as I was mentioning with Shawn's own experiences, the experience of watching a movie at 25-50% capacity, it's just not the same. I appreciate going. I think it's important. It's still how I would prefer to see a new release, but it really can't compare in terms of experience to those memories we have before the pandemic hit of watching something with that buzz, with that energy, right? And I think, interestingly enough, most of the movies that made it into the top 10 I ended up submitting were films that were released in the first quarter. I've spoken at length about how much I liked a movie like Bacurau, a Brazilian title that actually came out in Brazil in 2019, was a massive box office hit there. Came out, I think, right as the pandemic hit and cinemas closed here in the US, distributed by Kino Lorber, was an early pioneer in the virtual theatrical model. I can't recommend that film enough. It speaks about a lot of the structural problems that Latin America has that were really highlighted by this pandemic. Beyond that, I really liked Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, which again was one of those early titles that were derailed by the pandemic, went to streaming on PVOD through Focus Features. And unfortunately, I think was very much overshadowed in the early days of the pandemic by other streaming titles like Tiger King, for example, where it was really hard for those titles in that first quarter, right in March, to really get through the surface of a general awareness. And it's something, guys, that when I talk to relatives, when I talk to friends, they always express surprise. They're like, how could you see any movies this year? None of them came out. Are movie theaters even open? I haven't heard of any movies coming out. I think outside of our little bubble of working on this from a day-to-day basis, without having dialogue about movies and not only trailers, but we were admittedly criticizing the whole critical culture and critical discourse that we're having today. But even that plays a role. People talking about movies, hearing that there's a review out there that you want to read, that you want to engage with. And the transition I'm going to make with that is a lot of my viewing choices at home, where I saw most of my movies this year, actually came from reading film criticism, which I really hadn't done regularly over the past 5 years. Like you guys say, I missed that a little bit. I missed talking about movies. So I went back to some of the critics I like quite a bit, looking through recommendations from folks that I've always liked reading, such as Nick Pinkerton, Violet Lucca, and Richard Brody in the New Yorker. One of those movies that I saw at home that I really enjoyed for the first time was Happy Hour, a Japanese film from 2016, which is divided into 3 parts. It's actually a 5 to 6 hour long whole, if you want to divide it into those 3 portions. That was fascinating. It's one of those long watches that being able to see it at home actually helped me. I think I would have struggled watching all 5 to 6 hours theatrically. And I actually went back to revisit one of my favorite movies from last year at home, Maria Lonina's La Flor, which is a 14-hour Argentine epic that I cannot recommend enough. It is just bat poop insane in just how it plays with genre and with the same core actors. I can't recommend that enough. I think those are the movies that, going back to not only engage with film criticism, but also being able to see them from home, I was able to have that different experience. Did you guys have any great at-home viewing experiences in 2020?
I think it's fascinating that you bring up the dynamic with like your family and your friends responding with that exact question. How can you watch movies? They're not coming out.
Right.
And I've had a similar experience, but it's in the way of, look, we've all streamed a lot of series. I'm sure we've binged a lot of things, or I know my wife and I have definitely kind of used this time to catch up on seasons of shows that we just haven't had time to watch over the years.
I never thought I'd know so many great British bakers in my life, but after 2020, yes. I know them all.
That's a great example. If anything, a lot of my friends and I kind of started this game over text message in our group where we just do name it. We take a screenshot of whatever movie we're watching, and I can probably say 9 times out of 10 all year long, it's been a movie that is, was definitely pre-pandemic, often older, 80s, 90s, and kind of either just something they never got around to seeing or feeling nostalgic for seeing, whatever experience that movie brought them whenever they saw it, or their parents took them to a theater to see it. And that's kind of been a little heartening in some ways, because I don't, it's not to say that there isn't great content out there on streaming. There are some great movies, and you guys have pointed out a lot of them that either never went to theaters or aren't really like wide releases. But at the same time, I think just talking with people who don't work in the industry with us, feeling that same absence of seeing movies in theaters is, it's a good sign. I mean, it's kind of been one of the positive feelings this year for me.
I mean, I've done a lot of catch up this year on older titles. I've watched some stone cold, indisputable classics, Dr. Zhivago, Cape Fear. My favorite new to me watch this year has been Showgirls, obviously. It's better than any of those previously mentioned films. But speaking to what you were saying, Daniel, I mean, my favorite movie-going watching experiences of this year, every weekend I have a group of people and we get together via our computers and watch some obscure, awful, horrible horror movie. William Shatner's made a few appearances to give you some context, and any other movie experience, I flash back to me sitting on my sofa, sitting on my bed. It's chatting with other people through this. It's having the communal experience. But yeah, for me, favorite new to me movie this year, Showgirls, for sure.
It's funny because the thing that I almost mentioned as my best theatrical experience of the year, I couldn't remember if it had been this year or last year, and it turned out that it was actually this year. A friend of mine has a couple of different times rented out a theater for his birthday and invited a bunch of people. Like a number of years ago, he rented out the silent movie theater, aka Cinefamily, for a while in LA, and he showed a 35 millimeter print of RoboCop, the original, obviously, which was great. This year, he rented out one of the Alamo Drafthouse theaters, and he was like, basically, he invites people, and he's like, "I'm going to show you a movie." And he doesn't tell anybody what it is. And this year it was Showgirls, but it wasn't just Showgirls. It was Showgirls with the commentary by this guy, David Schmader, who is a comedian, and it's a commentary that both eviscerates and uplifts Showgirls. It's a commentary that understands exactly how ridiculous most of the movie is, but that also admires it for exactly the same reasons. So it's both critically incisive and very, very funny. I think there's a DVD release that has this commentary enabled. If you get a chance to watch Showgirls with this guy's commentary, it's very, very much a worthwhile endeavor. I recommend it really highly.
I wish I'd seen Showgirls on the big screen. IMAX.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, this was not IMAX, but and I'll say for me, let's see, new to me. Stop Making Sense was not new to me. I'd seen the movie before. I thought it was a masterpiece before. I've watched it like 5 times this year because it is so pure and so, to me, uplifting. And I can't think highly enough of Stop Making Sense. Unfortunately, I haven't yet seen American Utopia, which is the newer live David Byrne show that is on HBO Max now. I guess I've heard it is wonderful as well. But I've got 2 new to me movies. I finally saw They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Which is a 1969 movie with Jane Fonda about a dance competition that goes on for days and days, in which people actually die as they're competing, for this kind of like absurdly small sum of money given what they're enduring to go through. And that movie was kind of uncomfortably relevant for 2020, I think. It is not at all a feel-good movie. It is one of the most depressing and in some ways horrifying movies I've ever seen. It was magnificent. I loved it. I can't wait to watch it again. And then I watched this movie, The Silent Partner. So it's a late 70s Elliot Gould movie where he plays a bank teller who kind of thwarts a robbery, and the robbery is by Christopher Plummer. The robber basically is angry that he's been thwarted, and he spends the rest of the movie stalking Elliot Gould's character, who kind of has this weird on and off again romance with Susanna York. There's also a character played by John Candy, early John Candy performance in this thing. It's it's kind of like in the late 70s, there were these weird tax shelter structures that were set up in Canada that resulted in movies like Videodrome from David Cronenberg. And it was kind of like basically this opportunity for filmmakers to get a bunch of money to make a movie, but they had no time to do it. These things would come up at the end of the year, and it was like, all right, here, suddenly you have this money, but you have to turn this around in 4 weeks or whatever. And my understanding is that The Silent Partner was a Canadian tax shelter movie. Consequently, It's a little rough and tumble. It's pretty sleazy at points. Christopher Plummer is like a really vile character in a lot of ways. But it's Elliot Gould, who is always great. And it's, if you like that sort of like bizarre, kind of grimy heist robbery movie thing, it's terrific. It's on the Criterion channel right now. So if you have that, you can stream The Silent Partner.
Well, let me, I want to, I guess, wrap this up, guys, by asking, I mean, what's a movie that you're looking forward to in 2021? Asterisk, we're not trying to jinx anything, and it later goes to PVOD, but assuming the calendar stays what it is, what's your number one anticipated? I mean, Russ, Dune, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't even have to ask the question, but obviously it's part of the whole Warner Brothers thing. So hopefully I will get a chance to see it in a theater. I would much rather watch it in a theater than on my television at home. So I will do everything I can do to see it theatrically. I'm sure there are many other movies that are coming out in 2021 that I'm also excited to see, but I've built Dune as my identity, certainly on this podcast, and I'm not going to confuse everyone by deviating from that now.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's actually a Disney 20th century film, Deepwater, that's slated for mid-August. That's the first film in almost 20 years from the director Adrian Lyne, who did Flashdance, Jacob's Ladder, Indecent Proposal. Like, the Lolita remake was his, and I actually think his is better than the Kubrick one. Adrian Lyne has not directed a bad movie, and he's coming back out of retirement, and it doesn't even matter to me what the movie is. He has not done me wrong.
It's kind of great that we're talking about. It's great we're talking about showgirls and kind of grimy and sleazy movies, because
Adrian Lyne, he comes right in.
Have that. Yeah, and here you are with Deepwater, which sounds like it's the sort of revival of precisely that sort of mindset. So I'm all in.
Shawn, how about on your end? What in that 2021 calendar really sticks out for you that you're really excited to see on the big screen?
All of it. I mean, I just want to go back. I can't really narrow it down. I mean, there's just a lot I'm excited for. James Bond. I mean, I've been watching those movies since I was a kid with my dad. And I've loved Daniel Craig's run as the character. So I'm really excited for that. 4 Marvel movies. Can't go wrong there. I'd probably say I'm most excited for either Spider-Man or the Eternals out of all those. I think Top Gun Maverick could be a lot of fun. Mission Impossible, for that matter. I mean, if things go well, Tom Cruise could have a really big year.
If the new Mission Impossible actually makes it in 2021, that is certainly my second, because
True.
I love those movies. Mission Impossible is probably my favorite modern franchise, and I'm kind of surprised by that, but at the same time not, because it's just, they're so well made, they're inventive, they understand spectacle. Yeah, big fan.
I would add Dune too, but I know Russ has me covered there, so it's definitely high on my list.
Daniel, yeah, take us home with whatever 8-hour, 14-hour, 12-hour.
I don't think I could last that long in a cinema to watch one of these multi-hour epics. Although what I usually do, because I am not a fan of the NFL or American football in any way, shape, or form. On Super Bowl Sunday, I'll usually go to the movies and watch 2 to 3 movies just back to back to back. The movie theaters are empty. I can catch up on anything. And I guess if they're open here in New York, they're going to be at 25% anyway, so things won't change much on that end. Honestly, for new releases, every year that comes in, for me, it's really more of a discovery thing. The way I like to engage with movies is by talking to people about movies. Yes, I have my own critical biases and tendencies that I like, filmmakers that I enjoy more than others. But it's film culture overall that I enjoy the most. I like being part of conversation around something that people are engaging with. And to be honest, yes, half of it is within this film Twitter bubble or film professional bubble that we're all in. I always find that the best conversations I have around movies are with friends and families that don't really, quote unquote, care about movies. You know, they watch things and they like to be surprised by them. So that's going to be my 2021. I do rely a lot on the curating aspect of festivals. I think it's something that Russ had spoken to in the past. I didn't realize that, like Russ, until this year, that, you know what, I really do rely on festivals to help me get a short list of films that I want to find out more about and sort of engage with and see if I want to watch. So it'll be a discovery. It'll be a discovery on what comes out, what I get surprised by. And in terms of filmmakers that I like coming back, I have to accept I have a soft spot for that dollhouse fetishism of Wes Anderson. So I am excited to see The French Dispatch when it comes out, hopefully at one of these art house theaters that I can't wait to support in 2021.
You said dollhouse fetishism, and I was
ready
like,
for
I don't
that
know
to go
where
a lot
that
of different
sentence is going.
That's the end of the episode.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Well, on that note, Happy New Year, everyone. We said this last week, but we can't thank you enough for listening. I can't express my gratitude and the sense of honor that I feel towards Daniel, Rebecca, and Shawn to be able to do this with the three of you. This has been a great experience for me. And, I sincerely hope for a better year for everybody in 2021, and especially for exhibitors who are out there and who have really struggled this year. I hope with everything that I have that 2021 turns around and that we can all come out of it stronger. Thanks again to recordeditpodcast.com for their constant work pulling together everything that we do and cutting out all of our between comment banter that, to make it sound like a clean and professional show. I assure you that on the recording side of things, it is far more rambling than you hear. So any conciseness is entirely due to our producers and editors, and I thank them. This episode of the Box Office Podcast is by Daniel Luria, Rebecca Polly, Shawn Robbins, and me, Russ Fisher. We will be out of the gate on Thursday, January 7th with a new episode. Please join us then. Thank you for sticking around, and hope for the best for all of you. Take care.